Well, welcome. I think we're up and running, and hopefully the sound quality is good. Got the headphones back on. No hat today, believe it or not. Welcome to the Colonel and the Kid podcast. I am Greg Heitmann, the host of the podcast, and also the kid in the Colonel and the Kid. The Colonel is, of course, Colonel Edwin P. Hagen Jr., my maternal grandfather, my mom's dad, and this is his podcast. Well, dedicated to the podcast. This podcast is dedicated to the memoir that I wrote about him and his and my relationship growing up. So that's the spine of this podcast. I talk about other things going on, mostly sports. It seems like I say this is a cultural podcast also, but it's mostly sports culture. Everything branches off of sports in my mind. So, and everything comes back to sports and the competition that's inherent in life and demonstrated in our sports world. And some people don't like the competition. And seems like today's modern society, everyone's a winner. There's no losers, but that's not real life. And I think we've damaged a couple generations of kids by not acknowledging that not everyone's the same. So anyway, there's a little quick editorial to kick off the show. So anyway, let's get going. This episode is the sixth podcast I've done, and it corresponds to the sixth chapter of the Colonel and the Kid memoir. And today's title of the chapter 6 is "The Hose." So that'll be coming up later in the podcast. So something to look forward to for you. And it's a little bit humorous, I think. I mean, I thought the last episode was kind of very subtle humor. The horse comb, and I had a complete fail yesterday. I was looking for the actual horse comb so I could hold that up on the podcast and show everyone. If the people that are watching the video of the podcast, they could actually see the horse comb, but I can't find it. I have mentioned here and there that I have moved back to New Mexico from South Dakota for my retirement landing spot. I did spend almost 2 years in South Dakota at the end of my career with the Federal Highway Administration, and I didn't sell my house here in New Mexico, and I just came back. I had a house up there in South Dakota, and sold that, moved back here, and trying to settle back in. And unfortunately, it's kind of if you've moved, and I'm sure everyone's moved, I think, in their life. But if you moved recently, you probably realize how much work it is and how much of a mess it is, and how things get lost and are misplaced for a while. And that's one of the casualties right now is the horse comb. It's missing in action. So I'm trying to get that so I can show that. And instead of just the photos, maybe if you saw the photos overlaid on the video podcast, then you got a good idea what it looks like. But it's not the real thing. That's just a photo. I want to be able to hold that up and show that for some good natured fun. But stay tuned for chapter 6. Yeah, it's just a shorter chapter, but it's got some good photos I'd like to share. Excuse me. So moving on to one of my recurring segments that I like to have for the podcast is abusive language or verbal abuse, and this is a little category where just the English language comes into play, and I notice some, I guess, just oddity of the language, and I like to share that and maybe get a laugh or two out of that. And today it was last night I was listening to the radio broadcast of the football game between Jacksonville Jaguars, and I'll emphasize Jaguars because that was a previous abusive language category that I went through, and it was the Jaguars versus the Chiefs, and there was a post game, and Jaguars had just upset the Chiefs, and the announcer, the play-by-play guy, I think it was Kevin Harlan, actually. I don't know if anybody knows him. He's a pretty all-around multi-sport announcer, and he was doing the game, I think, with Kurt Warner, former quarterback for St. Louis Rams and Arizona Cardinals. But Kevin Harlan said he pronounced, they were, I think, plugging their next game they're going to do on the radio, and it was Washington versus Chicago coming up next Monday, I believe. And he said Washington, and it's like my ears just pricked up, and I was like, what? Washington? It just sounds so harsh in my ear. Just great. It's like, again, nails on a chalkboard. I hear some of this stuff, and it's like, where does that come from? I mean, I've heard it before where people say wash, I'm going to wash my car, wash my clothes. And it's just so weird. And I actually did some homework on that. So it seems like most of the time I say I want to talk about a topic, but I do no research. I just throw it out there and make some guesses on what it is. But apparently it's called an intrusive R. And I'm making air quotes around intrusive R. And it's just, I guess it comes from the Scottish and Irish or Scotch-Irish immigrants, and they brought this R over in their dialects and language. And it, I don't know, it's kind of regional. It's mostly regional, I guess. It just affects just certain areas of the country. And I think it also said like Midland America, like this, not like maybe like the Great Plains states, but more like the Rust Belt in the United States where that comes from. And I don't like it. sorry to say, I don't think it's endearing or cute or anything. It's just really, again, it's like nails on a chalkboard when I hear people say that. I probably like, twist my face up like and question like when I hear people say that, if hopefully I can control myself if I ever hear somebody say that live and I'm in conversation with them. It's like, I don't know. It just sounds ridiculous to me. So anyway, I wanted to point that out. And to me, that is definitely abusive language. So stop it. Let's get that corrected. I don't know. Schools, elementary, junior high. Let's start it in kindergarten. Stop saying that. Stop saying wash. It's wash. There's no R. Okay, let's move on. This thought popped into my head just this week. I made some notes on it, so I wanted to bring it up. And this is the abusive language section. Maybe it doesn't even belong here, but one of the things that I was talking about probably in 2022, I was talking to somebody, and I'm sure I'm not the first person to ever think of this, but I thought, you know what we should do in this country? We should relocate the U.S. Capitol to Kansas, the middle of the country. I think that would be fair to do, because it just, as far as travel and the center of the country, and like, I guess maybe removing the East Coast bias from that we have, where the Washington D.C. is on the East Coast, and everything's, I guess, unequally balanced. I mean, just it's heavily weighted on the East Coast side of this country. And I thought, well, let's just start over. Let's have a reset for the whole government and whole country. We can start from scratch in the middle of the prairie in Kansas, build a brand new city. Just build from scratch. This whole idea of how we handle traffic and transportation, everything. We just start anew. And it's not the first time we moved the capital. I think, and again, I didn't do any research here, but I think we had the capital in New York when country first started, and then Philadelphia, and then finally, I think when George Washington was president, they said, let's build it down in Virginia. Let's carve out some area down there, and it was a swamp. They built it on a swamp, and they said that it's mosquito infested and just terrible. It wasn't just terrible humidity and just not a great location. And supposedly it was said that Washington wanted it down there because he said the government comes in and does their business quickly and gets out because it's such a terrible place to be. And yeah, it's been there ever since. And everyone knows the problems of Washington D.C. Washington. Let's go back to Washington D.C. and let's get a fresh start. Why don't we do that? That's my campaign. I think actually I was going to write a white paper on this, and I'm not sure why they're called the white papers, and I won't go any further with that. But and I didn't ever go any further. I just threw the idea out there. Let's do this. Let's have a campaign to move the capital of this country to a more suitable and well-balanced location in the Midwest. What could be better for this country than a fresh start? So I throw that out there, and I'll let somebody else pick up that baton and carry it forward and move that idea. I'm an ideas guy. I'm not really an executioner when it comes to that, I guess. Maybe it's just like, go ahead. I'll come up with all the great thoughts and ideas, and I'll really let other people carry them forward. So anyway, I when I started this podcast, I didn't really want to get into any politics at all, but here we are talking politics, moving the capital and the, and the like. So, I'm attacking regions of the country with their weird pronunciation of words. So, I'm dividing this country even further with with my attacks. Uh, I'm just kidding. I'm not trying to divide the country. I'm not trying to get into politics, but something did happen to me on Saturday that was very, very, I'm not gonna say disturbing, or upsetting. It's just, I just questioned the timing of everything, and it just seemed weird to me. It's just an unusual thing that happened. And I was on my usual walk route, and I actually extended my route to go by the Bank of America, which is my local bank here. It's just 2.5, 3 blocks from my house. Is very convenient to me, so I can walk over there, go to the ATM, get some cash if I need cash. And that's what I was doing on Saturday. I just was low on cash and was going to get some money out and put my card in. And before I could even put my PIN in, it asked me what language I'd like to use. And I've been banking there since, I think, 2004 when I moved here, and I saw that was going to be a nice close bank that I could, you know, handle my most of my business within blocks and within walking distance. So I decided I choose Bank of America, and now I'm going to say Bank of America because they're asking me what language I want to use. And for those of you not watching, I'm using air quotes around the word America because, I mean, this is a Bank of America, so shouldn't that be in English? And it just bugged me that I thought that we're getting so divided in this country we can't even use the same language. And and going back to my abusive language type topic here, that we we pronounce words weird, but then if like Washington, but then if you're speaking another language you can't even understand, this just adds some more confusion. And I think that's the really dividing point for any country. And you start to have the downfall of a country when you don't have any commonality anymore, and you can't even use the same language, so you can't understand each other, and you just get angry and fearful of each other because you can't communicate. And I'm really disappointed that we can't decide that English is the language that should be used in the United States. I guess maybe that's maybe I'm too nationalistic from that sense, but I really think that that's what we need. We need just the idea that, okay, the common foundation for this country should be the language, and that should be English, and build on that from there. Say, okay, you want to come to this country, you want to be in this country. That's the first step. You learn this common language that we have, and you build on that. So, and then I come to find out, I think, I think it was announced earlier last week that um, Bad Bunny is going to be the Super Bowl halftime entertainer. And I got a text from my brother Garrett, my younger brother, saying, "What is this? Why is how can Bad Bunny be the entertainer?" And it's like, we're both over 50 years old, so the world has passed us by. They're not catering to us anymore, and that's the whole thing too. And I don't take offense to it that Bad Bunny is a rapper from Puerto Rico, and most of his music, if not probably 95% of it, is in Spanish. And it's like, well, that's more power to them, I guess, if that's what they want to do. But they're not trying to cater to the audience of the football people, football loving nation that we have. That's the halftime entertainment loving people that want to hear that, and that's fine. I don't care. I can go get my snacks and use the restroom during halftime anyway. Don't care. But Bank of America asking me what language I want to use, Bad Bunny, Super Bowl halftime entertainment for this year. Coincidence? Probably. Yeah, I would just say it's a coincidence. I think that's just one of those weird things that happen. They have nothing to do with each other. I guess. So anyway, maybe I'm getting on the wrong side of the. Maybe I should have never gone down this path and touched on any political um, rail on my podcast, but too late now. I'm not editing this. I'm not that skilled at podcasting yet to go back and edit any of this stuff out. It's comedy gold too, really. I mean, people are going to probably clip this and make memes of it and mock me, which I please do. I will find that hilarious if you can make fun of me in those ways, because yeah, I mean, that's the whole point of this podcast, is for me to have a laugh, even if it's at myself, on me, if laughing at me, not laughing with me. I don't care. As long as you're laughing, because I think that to me, that's one of the most important things of, of life itself, is just to enjoy it. And laughter is the biggest indication that you're having some enjoyment. Yeah, as far as I can tell anyway. So that's it. That's the wrap for abusive language for this podcast, and verbal abuse. We're gonna cut it off there and move on to, I guess, a different kind of abuse. Baseball, another sports topic. I know the cultural stuff is really skewing into baseball, and sports and coming up football. I got a lot of stuff to talk about football, and we're going to probably run overtime on this podcast. I can see now we're already almost 20 minutes in, and yeah, we're lagging behind the schedule if you want to call or even think that I have a schedule. So baseball update. I haven't. This is the first time I've talked about baseball, and I'm in the 6th episode. And the reason I don't talk about baseball that much is because baseball is virtually dead to me. I guess to me, I haven't watched any of the baseball playoffs this year. Don't care. I grew up as a Minnesota Twins fan, and there's going to be more on baseball in the Colonel and the Kid memoir coming up. But it's it's sad to me that I've just fallen away from baseball, and there's a reason for it. I'm put down some of the couple um, notes that I have here. I want to share those with the podcast just for the record, and it's very it's it's hurtful to me that baseball has abandoned me, I guess, more than I've abandoned baseball, because it was a huge part of my life as a kid growing up playing baseball in Groton, South Dakota. And now I could it seems like I couldn't care less about baseball. Um we were talking about going down. I live in Santa Fe, New Mexico, and Albuquerque has a AAA baseball team, Albuquerque Isotopes. I think it's the farm club for the Rockies right now. And it's a heck of a value. I mean, the tickets are cheap. The stadium's really, really nice. It's small. You can see really well. It's not like the big major league stadiums where they have the triple decker type seats where you get out there, you're so far away you can't even see anything. But the Albuquerque Isotope Stadium it's really nice, and I would like to go there more. But like I said, baseball is pretty much dead to me. And there's a lot of traffic in Albuquerque, and it's an hour away, hour plus. Don't get down there. And I never even went down to a baseball game this year. We talked about it. It's like, yeah, let's do that. And never even happened. So anyway, but one of the first things that really kind of just started the path for baseball dying away is, and I looked up the date. So I did actually do a lot more research than I usually do. And I Googled when Bud Selig was commissioner. This in 2001, there was a vote to contract the the Minnesota Twins and the Montreal Expos from the league. They just wanted to dissolve those franchises, and they voted to do it. But then I guess there was some lawsuits, and it never happened. But I thought, this is a total clown show, because Bud Selig, the commissioner, he owned the Milwaukee Brewers, which is like a direct competitor for the regional market for baseball. It's like, that's just, I mean, just, maybe there was no, I guess, direct conflict of interest because he's acting as a baseball commissioner, but uh, perception wise, it's just ugly, just completely fraudulent to say that was fair for the for Major League Baseball to attack the Twins. And they did finish off the Expos. These were financially struggling franchises that you know that they targeted and wanted to get rid of. I think the Twins were in the Metrodome, and Major League Baseball hated that stadium. They wanted the Twins to build a new stadium, and the Montreal Expos side, there's just no attendance up there. Baseball's not their thing, so they wanted them gone. And they did move. That franchise ended up being, I don't know if it's picked up and moved, but it basically became the Washington Nationals. And way back when, and I mean, it was a return of baseball to Washington, because they used to be the Washington Senators, and there's the connection because when the Senators moved, they moved to Minneapolis, I guess, and became the Minnesota Twins. So, I mean, there you go with baseball moving, and major league sports franchises moving, and just how ridiculous picking up a team from a community and moving it. And it just makes me shake my head, just like, like the Los Angeles Lakers. Yeah, because all the famous lakes that are around California and in Los Angeles, like, well, it's because they're the Lakers because they were the Minneapolis Lakers because of the land of 10,000 lakes of Minnesota. And then whenever they actually moved that franchise to the Lakers, they didn't even change the name. They just kept the stupid Lakers name. It's sort of like the Utah Jazz basketball. It's like, oh yeah, all the famous roots of jazz of this country are in Salt Lake City, Utah. Yeah, that's where jazz comes from. And if you don't know, because that's where it used to be, the New Orleans Jazz, and they didn't change the name. And there's just goes on and on with the ridiculous decision making that can be found in all facets of life. But you can see it really concentrated in sports when you start distilling it down. It's like the Indianapolis Colts. It's like, yeah, it was like the Baltimore Colts for the longest time, and then they moved them to Indianapolis because of the shifting landscape of ownership and football and money making, and suddenly you had Indianapolis Colts basically wrecking that tradition of the all-time great Johnny Unitas and Baltimore Colts history, and just throwing that out the window and moving it to Indianapolis. And then later you get the Baltimore Ravens in there instead, and it's never quite correct again. It's sort of like my mockery of the Washington Redskins team, where they've changed the name, and Cleveland Guardians, and at least the Cleveland Browns were able to save their name. When they moved it was actually the franchise of the Cleveland Browns that was relocated to Baltimore and became the Baltimore Ravens, but the Browns were able to to, to call dibs on the name of the Browns, and then when the NFL expanded, they put the Browns back into play, and they became the Cleveland Browns again. So thank goodness that didn't get all screwed up. Anyway, back to baseball. So in 2001, that happened with the, Bud Selig and the clown show of trying to take the Minnesota Twins baseball team away. 15 years later, we were able to start getting the streaming, and get the, I guess it was on DirecTV. You could get Major League, I think they call it extra innings at that time. So you could get the baseball games of your favorite team and get them through the satellite TV, and in 2016, I think it was streaming. You can buy extra innings and just stream it through your computer or your Fire Stick on your TV and stuff like that. But in 2016, there was some dispute with the Los Angeles Dodgers, and I was really looking forward to hearing Vin Scully's last season as an announcer for the Dodgers. And suddenly there was some dispute with the cable company and distribution, so that you couldn't see it unless you were at the local market in LA. You couldn't see Vin Scully, and he was just a treat to listen to always. And I just felt really robbed of that season. I signed up and I paid money for this extra ability to hear baseball, watch the Minnesota Twins, and then and the Dodgers were always the late game, and you could tune that in and just kind of relax at the end of your evening and listen to a little bit of Vin Scully's stories and stuff. And he was just alone in the booth, just himself talking, telling all these great stories. And I think he was an announcer for, I think they said 67 years with the Dodgers. And it was just, I mean, to me, it was just a travesty not to be able to share that with the rest of the country. And just because some dispute with the distribution company of baseball. I mean, Major League Baseball, they should have just stepped in and said, no, you're not doing this. That's it. We have an executive committee that you cannot rob people just for a few dollars more of, a historic announcer's last season. I mean, it's just a joke. And never going to get that back. And I think, to me, that was almost the final straw for me. And I've still purchased the baseball streaming, but I think I'm done now because I barely watched it this year. I was very busy moving and stuff and doing a lot of personal things. But previously, could turn on the Minnesota Twins and be in the background, be doing some other stuff, getting, cooking supper or something like that, and just be listening to it and be on the TV. And now it's like, don't care. And part of it's the Twins themselves. They're a bad organization. I don't think think they were supposed to be sold, but I don't know if that fell through now. They're not even trying to win. They're a terrible organization. They have no development of personnel. Um, on top of that, they built this outdoor stadium in Minnesota. So your first month of the season is very iffy. It's terrible. As a fan, why would you go there and be cold and be freezing in the stands? And then if you do happen to get the playoffs when it's in October, I mean, why would you want to try to play baseball in that weather or risk the chance of it snowing on you? You should you shouldn't build an outdoor stadium. You should build a nice stadium like they did in Milwaukee, where you have a roof that can close, and if the weather's bad, you close the roof, and then you play baseball, especially in a region like Minneapolis, where you have a fan base that has to maybe travel, and then maybe family vacations. Like when I was a kid, that's a family vacation. We'd go down to Minneapolis for a couple Twins games, maybe go to the zoo and Valley Fair, stuff like that. But the focus was going to the Twins game. And if the weather was bad, you're just out of luck. It's just stupid to have an open air outdoor stadium in Minneapolis, Minnesota for baseball. It's stupid. Let me just say that. I don't care. And the Twins have lost me as a fan. I'd almost rather watch other teams now play, just because they're more competitive for one thing. And then I've never been to the new Twin Stadium. I'd like to go see the Twins play in person, but I have, if it happens, it happens. If I don't see it, I sure am not going to miss it. So I know the Twins, I think what did they say? They try to say it in the softest sense of the words. They didn't bring Rocco Baldelli back as manager. It's like, oh, they're moving on from him. I don't know if his contract was up and they just didn't give him a contract, or they fired him. Whatever they did. Again, I don't really care. I don't think he was really controlling much. I think a lot of the stuff's all the decision making is probably coming from their front office and analytics anyway. So I don't think it really matters. I don't think it matters who they put in there. They're not trying to win because they're not spending any money on the team, because they're trying to sell the team. So it's again, I'm going to use the words clown show again for this, because I mean, it's become an embarrassment to be a Twins fan. And again, I don't know. I'm saddened by the fact that baseball is just dying away, a slow death. And I'm sure I'm not the only one that's in the same boat, that, just like, don't care, whatever. And I'm spending way more time talking about it than I really planned to. But I think there's something in me. And like I said, again, in the memoir, the future chapters of The Colonel and the Kid, I talk about some of the baseball stuff that really was a big part of my life as between 8 years old and 15 years old. You just, how special it was for that special place that baseball held for me as a kid growing up. And now it's like, whatever. But I will say that baseball has a lot going for it, actually. If you're not a Twins fan and you want to look at some of the brighter side of what baseball has, they have Shohei Ohtani, Japanese superstar that's in the league now. Has been here for, I don't know, let's say 6 or 7 years. But he's like a pitcher and a hitter that's just probably, I think, a lot of the people that that broadcast baseball and follow baseball and write about baseball, I think they believe that he's the greatest player ever to play the game. And that's happening right now. And I pretty much don't care. I haven't seen him play in the playoffs at all. I mean, the playoffs are full speed ahead for baseball, and I just haven't cared to watch it, even turn it on. I think there's a game on right now. I probably should have it up on my TV so I can kind of glance at it and pay attention, but nope, don't care. And I will make one more comment on the idea that I'm still kind of wrapped up in baseball because I heard on one of the sports podcasts I listened to, they brought up the name Jorge Polanco, and I'm like, Jorge Polanco, that's a former Twin, and apparently he hit 2 home runs off Detroit's star pitcher. Jorge Polanco plays for Seattle Mariners now, and they're playing in the divisional series up, and it was out in Seattle, and Polanco actually hit 2 home runs off of Tariq Skubal, the star pitcher, probably going to win the Cy Young for the American League. Um, and it really, my ears pricked up when I heard that, and it's like, man, that's pretty cool. And I always think of Jorge Polanco because with the idea that his eyes seemed like they were giant. It's like, man, I mean, if I was going to pick out somebody that could probably be a good hitter, the guy with the giant eyes that could see a ball coming at him like 100 miles an hour. And that would, yes, that would be a trait that I'd want for a good hitter. And that's the other thing too, that baseball's just gotten so dominated by pitchers that they're going to have to do some changes to try to fix it up. And then they're working on it. I guess they've added a pitch clock so that you can't have these 4-hour games, which was becoming the usual for a lot of these games. They have a pitch clock now, and I think the average game time dropped by at least 40 minutes. I think it's probably averaging about 2 hours and 35 minutes, somewhere in there now, for a Major League Baseball game, which is good. And, I applaud them for that, but still, it's like, it's almost strikeout or home run. There's just no in between. There's no hitters anymore. I think for a while, I'm not even sure what the stats are. And I wish, again, I have just gotten so far away from baseball. I used to know a lot more about this stuff, but I think statistically, I think they said in the National League, there's only one batter hitting above 300, which is just ridiculous. I mean, I don't know. That's embarrassing again. So I'll end on that note. An embarrassing note for baseball that they've lost control of the game, and they're mistreating the fans, I believe, and they're going to pay a price. They are paying a price, and they're going to pay a price. And also, one of the worst things that's going on is they have to compete against NFL football right now during the fall. They should have a much shorter season, and they need to do better. I mean, they're, it may be too late. Maybe they can't salvage baseball. Maybe it's over, and it's just they don't know it yet. So, anyway, let's move on to the NFL, which the 600-pound gorilla in the room will let the NFL talk, and we can talk about my predictions for my week of predictions. And I predicted I would do bad at predicting, and that I predicted correctly when I was said that my predictions were going to be poor, and they were. So let's go through them. Get a quick drink of water, and we'll move on. Yeah, we're trucking along. We're already 36 minutes into the podcast, and we'll just start to touch on football. And I'll go through the review of week 5, and I'm getting to my predictions of week 6. I'm not sure if I'll be around on Thursday. Usually I like to go podcast on Thursday to go through my predictions for the upcoming weekend, but may have to be out of pocket for the podcast. So I'm going to go through those predictions too, but I'll go through those fast. I'm going to go through the analysis of week 5, kind of break down some of the stuff, and see where I went wrong. I guess I'm going to say I see where I went wrong, but I didn't go wrong because I did predict I was going to have a big struggle and a difficult time with these picks. And I think I probably would have done. I mean, statistically, there was, what did I say? There was 14 games. There were 14 games. So if I just flip a coin, 50-50 chance each time, and assign winners and losers based on a coin flip, theoretically, I should have gotten, 7 right and 7 wrong, right? That statistically, I don't know. Maybe I don't know any math. I did have a math minor in college, but I think my GPA was barely enough to really award it to me. And I will tell that this is a great story too, because I remember when I was graduating from college, I had to go get signatures. I think that they had to go to the um, the college of engineering and get the sign off that I actually was going to be able to graduate. And I went and I got my engineering degree, and I had a math minor and an art minor. So I went to the math department to get them signed off on my minor so I could be on my transcript. And I don't know, it was like the assistant to the dean or whatever it was. I mean, it's so hilarious to me now, and even at the time, it was so funny because I remember my GPA wasn't the greatest, and they got a calculator. She, she got a calculator to calculate my GPA to see if it was going to be if I qualified for a math minor, and I did. Yes, I did. So that was one of the greatest days of my college career is when the math department had to get a calculator out to to see if I qualified for a math minor on my transcript. I was like, yeah, this this is living. That's what I thought. Anyway, so back to let's recap. And I think I recapped the 49ers versus Rams. I took the loss there. I picked the Rams. 49ers upset them at home. So I started the week with a loss, and let's just say I bookended the week with a loss. So there we go. Vikings at Browns in London. I had picked the Vikings, of course, because I picked with my heart on that game, and they were able to pull it off somehow, some miracle. And I did have an asterisk by this game because I want to talk about something that I never noticed until after the game. My brother Garrett, he texted me a story from X that the kicker for the Vikings missed a field goal, and I just thought it was wide right. I thought, yeah, it was 49-yard field goal or something like that, and just missed it. But come to find out that apparently the ball hit a cable that holds up that little camera that floats around the stadium, and it's like, well, I never noticed it, but I'm far away from the game. I'm 7,000 miles away or whatever it is from London, and I'm watching on TV. But there's people in the stadium, including the officials, that never noticed this, never had a replay, and the kicker didn't protest. Like, wait a minute, the cable hit the ball, and there's no chance. I mean, to me, it's ridiculous that this is going on. So I would say that, um, jumping ahead to my conclusion for the week. I mean, besides who are the biggest losers of the week in the NFL? I mean, besides me and my picks, the biggest loser is the officiating for the NFL and the NFL's credibility, because the NFL is got a problem. In my mind, apparently it's not a big enough thing that comes up, isn't recurring, and there's no accountability. They say, oh yeah, it comes out in the news a little bit that this happened, and that the ball hit the cable, and then it should be what the rules are is that should be a do-over. It's not like, oh no, there's no big deal. That's sorry you missed it. No, you get to re-kick it. And I mean that seems fair to me, but they didn't. Did that happen? No. Did the officials miss it? Yes. Did it? It's. I don't know. I mean, to me, the biggest problem is, can you imagine if you're gambling on this and you have some serious money? I mean, please don't gamble. I implore you, stay away from gambling. This is for fun. Pick all the games you want. Watch the NFL. Enjoy your fantasy games. Do that, but just do it for fun, because it's not a money making business, other than the casinos that are making all this money off of you, because they know what they're doing, and basically just say, I don't want to say steal your money, but they are fixed. It's fixed against the normal everyday gambler. That's what it is. Gambling. The word gamble, I think, has a negative connotation. You should stay away from it because it's a gamble. You don't want to. You want to keep your risks low. So, I'm getting my soapbox here talking about gambling too much, but please just don't gamble. You can do this for fun and criticize the NFL as an organization for the poor management that they have for the officiating and whatever, but stay from the gambling because you'll lose. So anyway, Vikings, yay, they won. They won a game. And then I guess I should go back to that Vikings game and let me comment on this too, because the news broke today that the Browns are trading Joe Flacco to the Cincinnati Bengals. And I guess maybe that was the reason that they ended up the Browns started, Gabriel Dillon at quarterback, a rookie quarterback, and he looked fine. What do you expect from a rookie quarterback? But I'm guessing that the reason they did that is because they had pulled Joe Flacco out because they were in negotiations to trade him. And I would not be surprised if the NFL is involved in it, because when Joe Burrow went down for the Cincinnati Bengals, it basically threw their whole season out the window, and they got all this money invested in these wide receivers in their offense. And the Bengals are terrible. And I think they're going to struggle a little while longer, maybe till Flacco, maybe 2 or 3 more games till he gets to maybe a grip of the offense. But maybe, I don't know, maybe they'll turn it around a little better. But Cincinnati has other problems on defense too. Their defense is terrible. But anyway, the Browns and the Vikings turned out good for the Vikings. And I think I talked about the Colts and the Raiders. And I said, I fully expect the Raiders to win this game. I'm picking the Colts. And lo and behold, the Colts just demolished the Raiders. Raiders couldn't look worse. Same with the Giants at Saints, except the other way. I said, I fully expect the Giants to collapse and come back to reality with their rookie quarterback. But I'm picking the Giants, and sure enough, Saints win pretty easily. And then I think I talked about the Broncos and Eagles, saying this is going to be a good judge of, be able to gauge where these teams are. And the Eagles led that whole game and collapsed, and Broncos beat them. And Eagles were one of 2 undefeated teams, and they lost. So now there was just going to be one undefeated team, the Bills. And just wait, we'll talk about them later. Dolphins at Panthers. I said I thought the Panthers were embarrassed the week before, so they come back and show us something, and they did. Got down 17-0, I think it was. And the Dolphins, I think, got a little too complacent. The Panthers looked pretty good. I watched a lot of that game on the Red Zone channel, because I have the Red Zone channel, which shows all the scoring going on, the drives that move into the red zone that kind of put the teams up there. So that was a fun game to watch, and the Panthers come back, looked decent. And they have this running back, it's Rico Dowdle, I think is his name, because Chuba Hubbard, he's got quite the names. They got the all-star name for the running back team, their all-star running back team names, whatever you want to say. Chuba Hubbard injured, Rico Dowdle in, so I think Dowdle ended up over 200 yards, which is pretty good. He was just slashing the Dolphins defense there. But moving on, Texans at Ravens. And this one, I thought this is the last gasp for the Ravens, and they just got thrashed by the Texans. I don't know what the final score was, but it was ugly. Ravens just looked terrible, and I think they're done. I think you can count them out of the playoffs. I think they're gonna have to have total rebuild on that team, and I suspect that the Ravens coach John Harbaugh is probably going to be fired. So anyway, Titans at Cardinals. This game, they had no wins on the season. Cardinals, I think, were 2-2, not looking great, but kind of an average team. Cardinals got off to a 21-3 lead. I think maybe into the fourth quarter, maybe, I don't know. In the second half, they're still up 21-3. And I put an asterisk by this game because the Cardinals ended up losing. But again, like I said, the only losers this week in the NFL were the officials and the NFL, because there was a play in this game where maybe it's just me, but I'll go out on the limb here that the NFL has a problem with their officiating and the idea of what a catch is. So late in this game, probably within the last 4 minutes of the game, Titans were driving down. The ball gets tipped by at the line of scrimmage. Cam Ward, the quarterback for the Titans, throws the ball, gets tipped, and it's intercepted. And I'm putting air quotes around intercepted for those not watching this. And the defender for the Cardinals is stumbling and not just trying to grab the ball, get the ball, and get possession of it. And he stumbles, takes a couple steps, falls to the ground, and the ball comes out, and they call it a fumble. And then another Arizona guy comes over and kicks it into the end zone where the Titans recover it for a touchdown. But it was never reviewed, never really talked about. But that was not a completion. He never completed the catch, because you got to have, well, they say there's 3 things for the catch: possession, 2 feet down or a body part down, and then you have to make a football move. So what was the football move there? Falling down to the ground, the ball bouncing out? There's no football move. He was stumbling and he fell down to the ground. The ball came out. So he never completed the catch. He didn't survive the ground. And it just aggravates me to no end that this was never talked about, never even discussed, just, glossed over like nothing. But this is what the NFL wants. They want parity so that everyone seems like they have a chance to win the championship. And there's nothing worse for the NFL, I think, nothing more embarrassing than having winless teams, because it just shows you that it's not true parity, and it's just not, it's not a level playing field maybe for all the teams. And I say parity, but which meaning like a same level playing field for everyone, and equilibrium around the league, versus parody. And that's what it is. This is a parody of, kind of a mockery of sports, because you're using the officiating to level the playing field to make one team seem a little better than the other team. So it was very frustrating for me to watch that. And I'd watched that game and like thinking, you know, where's the fairness? Where's this going to be adjusted for these guys? I mean, these guys, there's people have careers involved, and that's the, I say that too because there's more than that happened in that game, because there was it was a running back by the name of, I don't know what his first name. His last name's Mercado for Arizona. He had all before this stuff at the end with the interception and the Titans coming back to win. But before that, this Mercado had a long touchdown run. I think it was like a 70-yard touchdown run. However, it wasn't a touchdown run because he dropped the ball. Like when he's going to start to celebrate before he got to the end zone. So he dropped the ball and the ball went out of the end zone. So it was a touchback and they got no points. If he just scored that touchdown, all the stuff I talked about with this interception and the controversy with that would been nothing. And I saw later, I think it was on Monday night, they're kind of going through some of these highlights, and they showed the coach, and I don't even know the coach's name for Arizona, but he was on the sideline after that guy did that to Mercado, dropped that ball. He was just screaming at him on the sideline. And I think the way they described, the announcers described on the sideline, the coach took a swipe at him. I think he not swiped it. He hit him like in the chest, kind of like that. And is so angry with that guy for dropping that and costing them points and everything. And it really did end up costing him the game. And to me, it's it was funny and entertaining to watch that, because it's just so emotionally charged. And I want to see that. I want to see these guys want to win so badly that you almost lose control of your emotions. And I don't think he lost control of his emotions, because if he would have lost control of his emotions, he would have punched the guy in the face, the running back, and said, or cut him immediately. Get out the field. You're done with this team. Whatever. I guess that's the beauty of sports, where this can play out. The gladiator style of life that 2,000 years ago, where the gladiators were chopping people's heads off in an arena. We've gone past that. We're just going to start to smash each other with our bodies on the football field. But I don't know the coach's name, but they showed him in on an interview like the next day. It's like, I woke up this morning, really regretting my words and my confrontation with the running back. I was like, wow, those are kind of cheap words and cheap apology. And he said he apologized to the player in front of the team and apologized to the team for his actions. Like, you know, it's to me, it's worthless words and an apology like that. But to me, I guess I don't see that guy coaching very long because if you can't get your players to be disciplined enough to not drop the football, I think you're at a lost cause. So I don't know. I'm trying to think. I think his last name is Gannon. Yeah, I have no idea. He's a pretty young guy, and I don't see him long as a head coach in the league. Again, excuse me. Anyway, um, the next game. So that was another L. Anyway, I had picked the Cardinals in that game. Next game was Buccaneers at Seahawks, and I just hemmed and hawed about this. I didn't know who was going to win. Ended up picking the Buccaneers, and they ended up winning. But that was a great game. That was a lot of offense back and forth. I can't remember what it was. I think it was maybe 38-35. I think the Buccaneers kicked a game-winning field goal at the gun, and I think the offensive numbers for the quarterbacks was just unbelievable. I think Baker Mayfield for the Buccaneers had only 4 incompletions. I think he was 29 of 33 for 300 yards and touchdowns, and then Sam Darnold for the Seahawks he was just unbelievable too for passing, just completing all kinds of passes. But he made the one critical mistake at the end where had pressure on him. And it's probably in the last minute of the game, got pressure. They had a chance to move down and maybe get a field goal at the end, but he threw an interception. He got pressure on him and threw the ball and hit, I think his own lineman's helmet at the line of scrimmage. And it just knocked the ball offline a little bit and it was intercepted. Threw interception, cost the team the game. And kind of makes me feel better that the Vikings didn't re-sign him and they just let him go because I think he's just does not have that makeup as a NFL quarterback to win under critical conditions. So anyway, that was W for me. It was a tough one. Lions at the Bengals. That was an easy pick for me. Lions, they held on. The Bengals did score some points in that game. It was kind of an exciting offensive display for them at the end, but Lions handled it. Redskins at Chargers. Chargers led the whole way. Redskins came back, scored a couple touchdowns. They had their starting quarterback, Jaden Daniels, back under center, and I think the Redskins are probably a little above average, maybe in the top 12 of the league. They should make the playoffs, but I don't think they have the talent there that a lot of people think that they have. I think their defense is really, really suspect. They got some very much older players on that team, so we'll see what happens with them. Oh, another good game was the Patriots and Bills. Not a high scoring offensive display, but I had picked the Bills, and the Patriots came back and looked good. They got that quarterback Drake May from North Carolina, and that's so funny, all the intersecting things that happened, that he's from the University of North Carolina, and Bill Belichick, former Patriots coach, is the head coach there at that college, and Drake May looked like the next superstar quarterback coming to the an arena near you, because he kind of reminded, I guess, and the people were talking about, the announcers were talking about the resemblance to Josh Allen style, size wise, big guy, like he'll run a little bit, but Patriots took that loss at home, pretty tough. So that's the end of the undefeated teams in the league. So I think there's the Miami Dolphins perfect season's safe for this year, and I think we still have a team with 0 wins. I think it's the Jets. New York Jets, I think, have 0 wins on the year. So, that's harsh. And, yeah, Well, we'll go through the picks and see if they have a chance this week, according to me. So anyway, then Monday night, and I put an asterisk by this game because, again, like I said, the biggest losers for the week were the officials and the officiating and the NFL. I mean, of course, the biggest loser was me on my picks, but after that, the biggest loser was the officiating because the Chiefs at Jaguars. Chiefs got off to 14-0 lead. Jaguars come back at home. I mean, it's tough sledding for both teams, really. They moved the ball a little bit here and there and make it look easy, but then the defense would bow up and make some solid plays. And one of the best plays was Patrick Mahomes threw interception. They looked like Chiefs were going to go in and score a touchdown, but the Jaguars linebacker stepped in front, just made a really great defensive play and ran a interception back for a touchdown, like a 99-yard interception return for a touchdown. And it was hilarious because Mahomes tried to tackle him like at the 10. And he just tried to throw his shoulder into the guy's legs, and the guy just made a little juke step and a little shoulder. Mahomes just kind of falls to the ground. And guy had to, I think, evade. I think Kareem Hunt, the running back, kind of chased him down, but then couldn't get him down. So the guy kept on running and scored the touchdown. Pretty good play on that guy's part. But it ended up getting tied up, and the Jags they had got their defense up and stopped Kansas City and ended up making them punt. They were kind of down there, their own end zone, probably the 15-yard line or so. And there was a play, Trevor Lawrence at quarterback for the Jaguars, drops back and throws the ball directly to the Kansas City Chiefs defensive back. And it's like, what is he doing? And they go to commercial. It's like, what in the world? And you can see Trevor Lawrence is like, what's going on out there? And I was criticizing Lawrence, but you couldn't see from the camera work that the receiver had basically been tackled, and that's why there's only one person in the view of the camera, and where Trevor Lawrence threw the ball and got intercepted. So the Chiefs got the ball down there at the 15-yard line and scored a touchdown easily. And I thought, is this game fixed for the Chiefs? And it turns out that the announcers were even kind of, well, not kind of, very much critical of that call, saying that was obviously pass interference, and I'm not, and they have the retired NFL referee up in the booth with the announcers, and they go to him for comment. So yeah, that's obviously should have been pass interference, and they just missed the call, and there's nothing that can be done about it. It's like, oh, okay. So that happened, and I thought, well, this is bad. But it turns out that the Jaguars they were able to defeat two teams on Monday night. They defeated the Kansas City Chiefs and the officials because they overcame that and were able to win that game. And the Chiefs are now 2-3 on the year, and the Jaguars are 4-1 on the year. So I mean, they're looking pretty good. I'm very surprised. I was very shocked that they were able to hold on to that game, and of course that was another loss for me. I ended up 6-8 on the week, and now I'm 51-26 on the year for my picks. I'm going downhill, keep getting ever closer to the 50% for 50-50 chance for each pick. So I don't know where we're going with this, but my picks are getting worse. You'd think that after I get a sample size of watching some of these games, see what's going on, that I'd say, okay, now I can pick them because I've seen what's happened and I can predict on what's happened. But again, that's why I caution you. I say don't gamble on it because past performance is no indication of future returns. And that's what they say in the stock market. They caution you about investing in the stock market. This is the same thing for football. Past performance means nothing for the future of your money or your NFL team's success. So let's go on. We're already an hour in, so we're going to go on to the predictions for week 6, and then we'll get into the reading of the chapter and get her. We got a little ways to go yet, so I mean, got the musical section, and I want to talk about my books, and then we'll get her wrapped up. So this week, Thursday night game, Eagles at Giants. I'm going Eagles. Eagles on the road at the Giants. This is always a tough one because I think most of the time they say you should just go with the home team because the short week, there's basically no practice. They're just basically getting their bodies back in condition after taking the beating of the Sunday game. And then they're playing on Thursday night. There's virtually no travel going from Philadelphia to New York. So that's real big advantage for the Eagles, I think, in this case. So I'm just thinking the Eagles will take that game probably pretty handily. I think that the Giants offense is really going to be limited without their star receiver, Malik Neighbors, who went down with his ACL injury earlier this year. So another game in London, Broncos at Jets. Easy for me to pick the Broncos. I think the Jets, again, they're having a defeated season as opposed to an undefeated season. So I think they're going to have to wait to start winning some games later after the Broncos beat them. The Cardinals at Colts. I'm going Colts on this one. Colts at home. Cardinals, I can see them getting their act together and maybe beating the Colts. But it could happen. I'd say it's a very slim chance, so I'm going Colts. Chargers at Dolphins. I don't know what to expect from the Chargers. I think the Dolphins I think they're going to be trending even worse now. Again, they have similar to the Giants with a star wide receiver going down with a knee injury. It's really deflating. I'm just going Chargers. I don't have a lot of confidence in this game, but we'll see. Patriots at Saints. Patriots look good against Bills. Might be a little tough to get up again for the Saints. Saints they won. They beat the Giants, but Patriots have to go to the Saints. So they're professionals. They play that. That's why they play the game. But I'm going to go Patriots. Could be a lot closer than what point spreads out there might be saying. I don't have the point spreads. Again, don't gamble. Browns at Steelers. This one is going to be interesting to me. The Browns have a very good defense. Steelers, they're old. They have their defense is really old. Aaron Rodgers is old at quarterback. I think this is a kind of a watermark game for for football this weekend, just to see what happens because, again, Joe Flacco has been traded to Cincinnati. So the leadership, even in that quarterback room for their young quarterbacks, it's going to be a different feeling. So I don't know. I'm saying Steelers will probably win this game easily, but the Browns played in London last week. They don't have a bye, and they're playing at Steelers. Steelers had a bye, so I think this is very unfairly slanted towards the Steelers, but you never know. That's the NFL. But I'm picking Steelers. Cowboys at Panthers. Cowboys offense looks really good. Unfortunately, their defense is terrible. And the Panthers, I mentioned the Rico Dowdle. He was with the Cowboys for several years. So now he's the starting running back for the Panthers. And it's like a grudge match against the Cowboys for letting him go, and he's starting in place of Chuba Hubbard. So we'll see. I'm picking Cowboys. Uh, Again, I wouldn't be surprised if it, if it went the other way. Seahawks at Jaguars. I had picked the Seahawks because I think I talked about before, like on Sunday nights is when I usually go through the games when they're fresh, and I picked the next week's games, and I picked Seahawks over the Jaguars. It's going to be Seahawks at Jaguars, so Seahawks got to travel all the way across country. That's a long plane ride, long trip down there, and I basically anticipated the Chiefs would right their ship and beat the Jaguars. And after watching the Jaguars play on Monday night, I changed my pick. So I'm picking the Jaguars over Seahawks in their long travel down to Jacksonville. So we'll see if, see if that first instinct was wrong. And if I get the pick right, because I'm picking the Jags. Rams at Ravens. This should be the easiest game of the year for the Rams, in theory. We'll see how professional the Ravens are, because they got their butts kicked by Houston, the Texans last week. So I don't know. Again, that's why they play the games. Titans at Raiders. I think the Raiders are going to get their first. No, I think they have a win, don't they? I think they have one win. I'm just to say Titans. Their winning streak's going to come to an end. I think the Raiders are going to win a game. Bengals at Packers. Packers. This is going to be a cakewalk. Even Joe Flacco walking through that door, coming in to save you, Cincinnati. He's not going to know the offense soon enough. Can't get him on the field soon enough to save the Bengals season. Packers I think they're going to beat them soundly. Packers off a bye also. 49ers at Buccaneers. 49ers, I really admire that Kyle Shanahan at coach there in the 49ers. They just have this toughness about that team, which I'd love to see the Vikings have, but they don't. I'm going to pick the Buccaneers, but I would not be surprised to see this game be very close. And if the 49ers won, I'd be like, yep, that's just the way it is. 49ers got a good coach, good team, good hard-nosed football. I think the Buccaneers are in that little bit of that same realm, where this is just hard-nosed, just, this like a fist fight in football. They're just out there just pounding each other. The physicality of that game versus the finesse of sports. This is just the true old school football, where you're trying to, I'm not saying you're trying to hurt them, but you're trying to hit them as hard as you can legally and just show that you are the dominant team. And should be a good game. I don't know. I do question the thing that I go back to, and I question, and with all my NFL experience that I have, I'm going to question Kyle Shanahan. But at 49ers, they signed Brock Purdy to the big, huge contract for quarterbacks, and I don't see it. I mean, I think he's a fine quarterback. God led them to the Super Bowl, almost a Super Bowl victory, but Brock Purdy, I don't think he's the promised, leader to the promised land for these teams. So, and even though he went to one of my adopted schools for university, Iowa State University, because I worked in Ames, Iowa for 2 years, so I always adopt the school that's closest, and that I work or the city I'm working in. So I am a fan of Brock Purdy, but I just don't see him as the true NFL superstar quarterback. And he's making superstar money. Don't think he can do it. He's injured this year. I'm not even sure if he'll be starting quarterback for this game, but I don't know. I'm picking the Buccaneers. Lions at Chiefs. So I picked this game on well, I think I picked the Lions after they thrashed Cincinnati, and and thinking that, well, no, I think I'd pick the Chiefs, thinking that the Chiefs had righted their ship and they were going to be more, but they're still more desperate than the Lions. And then I saw the Chiefs lose, so then I switched my pick to the Lions. But then I decided the Chiefs are indeed going to be more desperate, and I switched it back to the Chiefs. So I am picking the Chiefs on this game. But amidst my confusion, which you can see me trying to explain picking the Chiefs, I fully expect the Lions to show me that I'm wrong again about them, and that they will beat the Chiefs, and the Chiefs will be officially out of the playoffs for the 2025 season, which that's fine. I think they've had their run. They had a good run. They have a little bit of a dynasty. I think that the comparisons of Patrick Mahomes to Tom Brady were a joke and ridiculous, and there's nobody that's going to win as many Super Bowls as Tom Brady. Not in my lifetime. Um, I don't think the NFL system will allow will allow it anymore. I think they keep tweaking the system because they want everyone to have a chance. Parity. Let's say that word again. Parity. The NFL loves that, but I see the Chiefs' desperation enough to win this game and keep them in the hunt. But if they do fold and the Lions win, I'd say their season's over as far as making the playoffs. Bills at Falcons. This is a trap game. I'm picking the Bills, but I feel like I'm trapped because I think the Falcons coming off their bye, and the Bills maybe a little stumbling, reeling from the loss to the Patriots at home. I think this could be an upset and upsetting to my picks. But I'm rolling with Josh Allen and their offense. We'll see. I think the Bills defense is really suspect, and the Falcons have some players that could pick it apart. Um, Michael Penix at quarterback for the Falcons. There's their liability. Maybe see Kirk Cousins come in. Again, I have no inside information, but if I was the Falcons, I'd be playing Kirk Cousins, trying to win some games. That's just me. I don't. But I was also calling for the Vikings to make the call to the Falcons, so the Vikings could trade for Kirk Cousins and have a good, solid quarterback back in the fold. He already knows the offense. He was coached by Kevin O'Connell. I think with that quarterback leadership, if Kirk Cousins would come back, I think the price is too high. They'd have to absorb all his money. Falcons are paying him like $25 million. It's like that. Kirk Cousins has made so much money. I mean, the guy is a genius when it comes to making money from the NFL. I admire that so much. So anyway, Bears at Redskins. This might be a good game. I think you might see a little bit. I think the Bears defense is really bad, so I think the Redskins are going to cut them up a little bit. Bears hang in there. I think they have enough offensive weapons. And the Bears had a bye. Redskins had to play out in LA, so they've had a long week here. I'm going Redskins, but I can see this being a good game. That's the Monday night game. I think there's actually two Monday night games. I think the Bills at the Falcons is early Monday, and the Bears at Redskins is the second game, I think. And then the Sunday night game is Lions at Chiefs. So those look like three pretty good games to bookend week 6. So that should be I don't know. I think week 6 could be a really good football watching weekend. And on bye, there's only one game, one less game. It's the Vikings and Texans are on bye, so you have, instead of 14 games last week, you have 15 games, but it's not the usual full schedule of 16 games. So the Vikings and Texans got a bye week. I get to rest my cheering for the Vikings this week and just enjoy some flat out football. Might be trying to get up for just a day trip up to bear country to do some bear hunting, but I don't know. That might be derailed depending on what the schedule looks like too. I got some other stuff going on. So anyway, that wraps up the NFL preview. Let's go on to the chapter. Get that Get that chapter in the books, so they say. So I'm going to go ahead and get my teleprompter called up so I can read the chapter and share share the chapter 6, which is the hose. As usual, I'd like to start the chapter with a quote, and I think I already said this earlier, talking about humor. And this week's quote is, quote, "The world is laughing at you, not with you," end quote. And this is attributed to Unknown. I'm not sure who got this, and I think it's a quote that's really the juxtaposition of the typical quote you say, trying to comfort someone when they're feeling humiliated that people are laughing. Oh, they're not laughing at you, they're laughing with you. But no, in this case, we're laughing at you. So that's the quote to start the chapter, and I'll get right in the chapter. And yeah, I think it's a really good quote to kick off this chapter. So, not funny. This is the most common response from from a grandchild indoctrinated into Grandpa's infamous wet eyeball club. I put wet eyeball club in quotes there for those not watching the video podcast, just listening. I made the club's name up just now, but you probably get the idea. If not, keep reading, and I will paint you a word picture that makes me shake my head as I type this. Grandpa was funny, a quick-witted man not afraid to laugh or cause laughter, or in this case, make himself laugh. If it's possible, I think I inherited that trait, making one's own self laugh. It's the best. You just hope that it's funny to you. If it is funny to you, then it has to be funny to others. Am I right? And I start the pictures for this chapter. There's a picture here, and I'll read the caption and then describe a little bit. The caption reads, "Grandpa's gardening skills, the peonies in his front yard circa 1980." And it's a picture from his house out in the country outside of Sisseton, South Dakota. And there's these really beautiful pink and red. There might be some white peonies in there too. There's really beautiful flowers. They're in full bloom, just like these bushy flowers. And it's really a memory that I have of Grandpa's houses that he had when I was a smaller child in town. They had a house in Sisseton, and they had these peonies. And then they moved out in country. They actually took the peonies with them and planted them along their driveway in their front yard. And it's really, really beautiful flowers. Grandpa, a consummate gardener, would be watering the flowers during the summer, as any horticulturist would do. It's an easy basis to set the trap for an innocent kid to participate and help Grandpa. I think every grandchild entered this exclusive club at some point during a summer visit to Grandma and Grandpa Hagen. It would start innocently enough. "Take the hose and finish watering the flowers," Grandpa would say, handing over the hose. "I got to get my work gloves." What an honor, at least for me. I thought this was recognition of being responsible. I was in charge of watering the flowers. Nowadays, watering my garden is relaxing therapy after arriving home from a busy day at work. But as a kid, you can get bored pretty quickly, just holding a hose with water flooding the flower bed. Grandpa would make watering the plants interesting. Opportunity in place, the bait in the trap. It was time for Grandpa to have a laugh. Simply crimping the hose in his hands from around the corner just a few feet away. Young kids are pretty naive, especially when they've been tasked with helping, and you don't want to screw up and disappoint Grandpa. The water stopped flowing from the hose. It always did. The exclamation was the same. "Grandpa, the hose quit." "What?" Grandpa would question with sheer incredulity. "Are you sure?" "Yeah, there's no water," I responded seriously, and with the concern of a United Nations diplomat voting for world peace. "That's weird," Grandpa would note with a shrug of a shoulder. He was a magician with his ability to divert attention from the folded hose in his one hand slightly shielded behind his back. Look into the hose and see if it's blocked. Okay. I put my eye close to the blackness of the opening where no water flows. See anything? Grandpa questions. No. Nothing blocking it? Grandpa questions further. No? I look back toward Grandpa. Huh. Check again, Grandpa would insist. Tension is at its highest as Grandpa's plan comes to fruition. My off eye closes, and I peer down the hose. Ever closer, fully expecting to discover the blockage and solve the case of the mysterious malfunctioning hose. Encyclopedia Brown would be proud. Instead, Grandpa's voice, higher with inquisition, questions again. Anything? Simultaneous to the question, the water hits my eye, and I gasp. Flinging the hose in frightened shock, laughter rips from Grandpa as if he has never laughed before. Unharmed but scared, it is exit stage right into the house and the comfort of Grandma. It's a valuable lesson taught from the Grandpa Handbook. It is a simple warning. Beware. You never know what someone might have in store for you. It is a change in the grandparent-grandchild relationship, an evolution that has to happen for a kid to start learning in a safe environment that there are dangers out there. It's a delicate balance for Grandpa to pull this prank on each grandchild because it is a turning point and an erosion of the blind trust a child might have in an adult, a rite of passage that can be taken back, a rite of passage that can't be taken back. You can't unring the bell, nor should you want to. Maybe I cried a little bit, startled by the rushing water bouncing off my eyeball, but I was unharmed. Educated, but unharmed. There's a little bit of postscript to the story. I think Garrett pulled this trick on Grady about 15 years ago. I'm not even sure if I was there or if this is just a false memory that I've created based on what Garrett told me, but I'm pretty sure it happened. It was in the backyard of my parents' house in Groton, South Dakota. Garrett and Grady were visiting in the summer, and Grady was doing some watering chores. I think Grady was lost in thought as watering the garden flowers is a good mind-clearing therapy. Somehow Garrett was able to crimp the hose using the patio deck as cover for the nefarious trick. I don't think any words were exchanged. Grady just noticed the water coming to a trickle and stopping. With a shake of the hose and then a glance into the hose at close range, Garrett was able to nail him right in the eye as he observed from his hiding spot. Good for a laugh from everyone. In contrast, if this had happened a few years earlier, there might have been a foot chase around the yard and a war of the hoses. It's an awesome story, factual or not. The life lesson here is pretty obvious. Wisdom comes with age, but there are exceptions. My goal this summer is to pull this trick on someone. Could be someone young, could be someone old. Doesn't matter. I hope to pull it off and enjoy a laugh that Grandpa would appreciate. I hope you try it too and succeed. Just one request. Please don't do it to me. So that's pretty much the chapter. I have some photos and I'll read the captions and describe them. The first photo is Greg's garden from September 2021, including a pumpkin. So it's just my backyard garden. I got some tomato plants. I have some marigolds planted. The theory with the marigolds near the tomatoes is that they would, keep the squirrels at bay. I don't think they work completely. I think they work to some extent, but if you have a big squirrel problem, like I do, I caught 13 squirrels this year in my backyard trap. Totally harmless trap. They get trapped and they get live trapped, and I haul them out in the country and release them. And garden was looking pretty good in 2021, 4 years ago. Second photo is from my parents' house in Groton. And I'll read the caption here. It says, Mom and Dad's Groton Garden, circa 1981. And it's, I don't know what it is, probably 20 foot by, let's say, 40 to 50 feet plot of land, the backyard, and my dad has, I think, everything. I think he's got a row of marigolds along the border, maybe trying to keep some of the rabbits and stuff at bay. They got a row of corn, sweet corn. And I think there's string beans. And there's a bunch of potatoes, bunch of potato hills planted there, and maybe some carrots. It's hard to really see. And then the next photo here, and these two photos were taken by my dad, and this is not the main garden plot, but this is more along the side of the house, south side. It's got tomatoes planted there. That was a traditional spot for tomatoes, and really some really nice big marigolds planted along the sidewalk. The sidewalk is between the marigolds and the tomatoes, and everything looks really nice. And finally, I like to end the chapter with a quote. And this is Victor Borga. And he was a pianist, entertainer. I don't know if people know who he was, but I remember as a kid seeing his commercials for his comedy videos where he'd tell jokes and play the piano and do some crazy entertaining. But one of his famous quotes that you may have heard this. And the quote is, quote, "Laughter is the shortest distance between two people," end quote. And I leave you there. That was chapter 6 of the Colonel and the Kid memoir. And again, I will say that reading that chapter definitely makes me feel like the kid and the Colonel, my Grandpa Hagen, Grandpa Old Timer himself. It just makes me laugh and smile to read the story about the hose, and good lesson for everybody on that one. And again, if nothing else, maybe get a smile and a laugh at the story. Maybe make your day a little lighter. I think this is a good point to again market the books. I haven't done enough marketing of my own work. Really a failure on my part to get out there and sell my books. So I'm going to hold up the original books, the original Westerns. So here's Forest System, Dakota Territory. I've done the marketing for this before, but I think each time I do little book plugs, I'm going to hold up the other ones and I'll introduce the newest book that's being marketed. And here's Chief Red Iron, the two Westerns I have. And please, you can find them on Amazon. They're available on Kindle. You can buy the paperback. If you contact me directly through email, whatever, I can arrange to get them autographed and send you a copy. I get a little discount as an author when I buy author copies. But then if I have to send them to you, then it makes it a wash as far as the Amazon price because the postage rates have gone up so high. But I'd gladly autograph it and personalize it to you. If you want me to order books directly from me, just send me an email if you want. And the email is G_man, MANN _JR @yahoo.com. Or I don't know if you can put things into the comments. I don't do a great job of looking at the comments if there are any comments in the podcast or anything like that. So email is probably the best way to contact me, or you can just Google me. I think my email will come up. I have a web page. My email is on there. We'll directly, you can copy and paste that into your email, or it might directly come up to your email. Anyway, this is the G-Man 2 pay to play. I think I plugged this last time, but I did want to mention that this cover is no longer in print. I have a different cover that actually has a train on it. It's like looking at the front view of a train, and I don't know. I don't know which cover is better. Probably better with the train because it is train related, but it's such a cool bridge. I really like this cover. I've kind of held back from selling this book because of that. But today's book, with all the baseball talk I went through, and I wanted to plug this book. This is Teener Baseball. This is this is the book that I wrote about growing up in Groton. It's based on playing baseball in Groton Groton has a long history of high quality baseball. They've won a lot of baseball championships over the years. I was on a championship teener baseball team. Garrett was on a championship teener baseball team, or I don't know if he was on multiple, at least one. And based on our experiences, I created this book. This is a politically incorrect book. So if you're sensitive, maybe don't read this book because it's got some locker room humor that might be harsh on people's ears if you're a certain personality or a certain age. It's probably more for, 16, 17, 18, 18-year olds to read. But this is, it's supposed to be humorous and funny, but it's also a good depiction of what goes on behind the scenes on baseball. And teenage boys are terrible. They have a lot of terrible comments and thoughts that they share willingly amongst themselves. Maybe not around other adults, but I I haven't read it for a while. I should read it again and see how embarrassed I am of the actual topic. I'm maybe embarrassed of my writing ability, but here's the back of the book. That's me, a picture of me at a Minnesota Twins game out in Oakland. Oakland Athletics. Traveled out there with Angela, and she's actually in this photo, but it was cropped just to feature me with my little Twins jersey and hat at Oakland Stadium. So let me read the back of the summary of the book that give you a little description of what it is. You can go on Amazon, Google it, and it's called Teener Baseball, and you can get a little more information about it if you want. Baseball is a rite of passage in the small town of Reedville, South Dakota. So what do you get when you mix the folly and exuberance of teenage boys with America's pastime in this rural farming community? You get a funny and bizarre tale of state championship baseball. Teener baseball is a story of competition and teamwork in the midst of hilarity and vulgarity brought on by teenage hormones, growing up in the Midwest, and learning life's lessons, looking through a prism of baseball. And then I further described the book, a story following somewhere between the Bad News Bears and Bull Durham. You'll see the game of baseball in a whole new light after reading Teener Baseball. And it's a fictionalized version of Groton's baseball team, but you'll get the gist of it. And also from the back of the book, Greg Heitmann was raised in Groton, South Dakota, where he grew up playing baseball and other sports in his youth. He graduated from Groton High School in 1987 and South Dakota State University in 1992. Greg currently resides in Santa Fe, New Mexico. Find out more at Greg's website, www.thegman.com. So, anyway, here's my plug for my books. I feel obligated to do it since I have written the books. I might as well try to sell a few. They're worth it. They're fairly cheap. I should say, I think I actually have audiobooks. It's AI read audiobooks of all the books except Fort Siston to Go to Territory, which when I published that book, it for some reason it was earlier than the other books, so it's not eligible to be read by AI. And I actually have hired someone to read it. And when I say hired them, I'm not paying them. They'll get a commission, a portion of the sales of the audiobook. But he's actually he's from Iowa, and I can't remember his name. Hunter. His name is Hunter Dietz. I think it's Dietz. He's actually the voice actor that's reading the Fort Siston Dakota Territory, and I approved like the first 15 minutes, probably a month ago. And I told him there's no rush. I've never spoken to him other than just exchanging some messages through the system and through a couple texts. But I think I think he had done a really good job in the first 15 minutes. And I'm hoping it comes out well, and maybe give him a boost for his career too. I don't know. The book is, like I said, it's targeted towards. Um, I always thought it would be fit into the Walt Disney genre of being produced into a movie. But I don't know. It could be enjoyable. And one of the other things that I always thought of, I tell people, and I just remembered this, so I thought I'd share it with this book. I always thought this would be a good historical fiction book to be put into the South Dakota school system, maybe at the 6th grade level, that the kids could read this book and get a sense of the history of at least Northeast South Dakota, and some of the culture, the Native American culture that was involved in settling South Dakota. And I guess I was always influenced by um, Johnny Tremain. That book I think I read that when I was in 6th grade too, and it was historical fiction based in like the right before the Revolutionary War, as the Revolutionary War was getting ready to kick off, and Johnny Tremain was a teenager and witnessing these events, and it's historical fiction based on the actual events that are going on. And I can't remember who wrote that book, but Johnny Tremain, you can look that book up and see how that was um, part of the curriculum for some schools, including that's where I read it, because it was part of the curriculum for Groton. I think as a 6th grader, I think we all had to read that. Then, we were quizzed on that and discussed it, and those sort of things. And I can picture the Fort Sisson book being that same way of being put into a curriculum, and kids reading that and discussing it, and teachers measuring comprehension through quizzes and testing, that sort of thing. But anyway, pretty soon you won't even have to read the book. You can just buy the audiobook, and hopefully that works out. And hopefully it works out for Hunter, launches his career as he can put that on his resume, and that he has produced a book as a voice actor and go forward from there. So, oh gosh, really exceeded all expectations for time today. We're like an hour and 40, and we're close to finishing up. We're going to definitely keep it under 2 hours, but we've been able to ramble on quite long today. So you're welcome, America. Oh, you're welcome, world. I guess this could go worldwide. I don't think I have any subscribers. I might have. I subscribe to my own podcast, so I do have one subscriber that I know of, but maybe I have international subscribers, and they're checking this out. So I'll touch real quick on today's music segment of the podcast. So I heard the song today, and I just wanted to get into a little bit and compare and contrast it. And the song that triggered me today, triggered in the best sense. It wasn't triggering some emotional problem or anything, but it was just, I heard it on the radio station this morning, and I was listening to it, and it was a song by the Rolling Stones, and it was "You Can't Always Get What You Want," and it's from 1969. That was just turns out that was the year I was born too, so it was a nice coincidence. But I was listening to that song, and how it starts off, and I'll just read the lyrics. "You can't always get what you want, but if you try sometime, you will find you get what you need." And I couldn't help but thinking, you can't always get what you want. And the other Rolling Stone song I was thinking of that popped into my mind, I think I just heard it recently too, was, Satisfaction. And I can't get no satisfaction, which to me, being that I have an abusive language or verbal abuse segment to this podcast too, it has a double negative. I can't get no, which means basically he's saying, Mick Jagger in his song, he's saying, I get satisfaction because I can't get no. I mean, that cancels each other out. So that's a positive. it means he gets satisfaction, which I'm pretty sure it's not what he means, but that's what technically he's saying. But anyway, that's the Satisfaction by the Rolling Stones, that song, because it's I Can't Get No in parentheses, and Satisfaction is actually the name of the song. That was from 1965, so he couldn't get satisfaction in 1965, and 4 years later in 1969, he was talking about you can't always get what you want, so he was very dissatisfied for 4 years at least during his musical career there. And I heard recently that they're coming out with a new album. So over 50 years later, they're coming out with another album, and I'm hoping that they're satisfied finally, and we'll have some closure on the dissatisfaction they've been suffering all these years. Anyway, hilarious to me. Maybe not to anyone else, but I will close the music section of the podcast and try to wrap this thing up. I'm going to introduce a new segment in this podcast. This is the debut of what I call License to Podcast, and this is the license plates segment of the podcast, particularly the personalized plates that I see everywhere. And a lot of times I'll take pictures of them, and then I'll be amused by what comical message they might have or whatever they have. And today, this is to introduce the segment. I do have a license to podcast. I don't have that. Well, I don't. I took the photo and I'll overlay it in the video podcast, but I'm just going to describe it here. And this is from a vehicle in the neighborhood, and I saw it parked in a driveway on my walk, and it's a New Mexico license plate, and the letters are JAMTSE. And this license is it's a Toyota RAV4 or RAV4. I don't know, however you pronounce that. But the license again, it's JAMTSE. And I have no idea what it means. I'm hoping I can get some clarification from somebody else. Maybe I can Google it and see if there's some sort of code. Maybe it's like Yamaste. Maybe I've been guessing. Maybe that's what it is. And like Namaste, sort of the yoga saying. Or does that mean peace? Like Namaste is I think it means peace. I don't know, but you'll be able to see I'll post that up there on the video podcast and just a little image of that. And I'm hoping no one sues me on this, because I don't know what the legality of posting a license plate. I think they're out in public, so how can it be wrong if I put it on my podcast? This is a public podcast. I'm not targeting anybody or invading someone's privacy. They're actually publicizing themselves that they have a personalized plate. So I don't know. I guess I'll find out. Hopefully I don't find out the hard way and I need a lawyer for my podcast. Does anybody know a lawyer, by the way, just in case? Contact me again at the email if you are a lawyer and you want to provide me some free lawyerly legal advice. Again, I know it's a legal opinion. That doesn't mean it's a fact. Anyway, that's it. I've gone way long today. And I did that partially because I may not be podcasting on Thursday. Might be bear hunting during this week and doing some other activities. So I won't say goodbye again. That's sort of the sign off of the show is not saying goodbye. It's see you next time. And I always like to go out on the positive note again. I put it on you as the listener and the person that's out there. I put this on you. And again, I say this, this is the advice but you have to be proactive, be assertive and proactive. In the football context, this is, you win the coin toss, you don't defer, you be assertive, you take the ball, You march down the field and you score. You have to assert yourself and be positive and take charge, you know? And on that, I say, what I sign off with, knock and the door will be open to you. Seek and you will find. Ask and you shall be given. All right, that's it. Have a good week. If I don't talk to you again before Thursday, have a great NFL weekend, Thursday and Sunday and Monday. Enjoy it. It looks like a good slate of games. So until next time, I will see you next time.